Good evening. I'm Jerry Clayton with Texas Public Radio. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Great SA, TPR's event series that takes a look at the history, the events, and the people who helped make San Antonio a great place. This series is inspired by San Antonio's designation as a creative city of gastronomy by UNESCO in 2017 and focused on culinary heritage in South Texas. This evening's event is in collaboration with the City of San Antonio World Heritage Office, also made possible by sponsorship by HEB and Frost. Special thanks to Schilo's for popping up and selling brats, schnitzel, and more. Be sure to check them out in the concession stand until 7:30 if you haven't already gotten a bite to eat. It's delicious. And also thanks to Pete Cortez from Tierra for the lovely treats of pralines found in your seats this evening. On our panel today, we have Bill Lyons with Schilo's and Casa Rio, Pete Cortez from Tierra Cafe, Marissita Garcia from Little Red Barn, and Luis Barrios from Los Barrios. So I'd like to start down at the end with Bill and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Bill, third generation. My wife and I are third generation. The fourth generation is sitting here with us, and the fifth generation is on the ground. And by the grace of God, some dedicated long-term staff and a family that has learned how to get along with each other, we are operating the oldest restaurant on the Riverwalk and the oldest restaurant in San Antonio.
Thank you, Bill. Pete Cortez.
Pete Cortez. I echo a lot of what Bill said about the family business. I'm Pete Cortez, a chief enchilada officer of La Familia Cortez Restaurants, oldest of the third generation. And we have a fourth and a fifth generation on the ground, fourth working in the business and fifth on its way.
Marissita.
Hi, I'm Marissita Garcia. I am actually third generation family member of Little Red Barn Steakhouse as well, and thankful to be here. We're one of the largest steakhouses in the state of Texas, over 60 years, so really grateful and excited to be amongst fabulous peers here today.
Thank you. Luis.
Hello, everybody. Luis Barrios. My father was in Spanish radio, TV, and newspaper, and my mother's dream was to have a restaurant. So in 1972, he bought her a restaurant. My sister Teresa was 14. I was 12, and Diana was 9. She was the cute one. And so we all got to work at the restaurant after school. I was a dishwasher, and I'd have to tear up the boxes for the trash, and Diana would color and sell her little coloring paintings and make a fortune. And every day she cried when she got home from school if somebody didn't take her to the restaurant. And if the dishwasher didn't go, then I had to go, and that's when I cried. So somebody was always crying after school at my house.
Thank you, Luis, and thank you to all of our panelists for being here tonight. Give them a round of applause. Before we start, this is a conversation that includes all of us. I want to encourage everyone to ask questions, provide comments. We have microphones set up, and we'll fold you into the conversation as we are able, so don't be shy. If you do have a question, please go to a microphone and ask it. We're here tonight to discuss the restaurant business with these folks who are literally San Antonio restaurant royalty. We're going to discuss the challenges that they've faced over the years, their solutions, and the keys to their long successes. So let's stick to those topics as much as possible. First off, the restaurant business is hard. I think we would all agree with that. It's a very difficult business. In fact, I know some restaurant owners who've called it ridiculous because of how hard it is and the margins, and especially these days in this climate, it's such a difficult business to maintain. Well, my question is, and I'd like to get an answer from each one of you, how do you maintain your consistency? We'll start with Bill.
I don't maintain it. Our staff maintains the consistency.
All right, fair enough.
And anyway, if it wasn't for them and working together as a team, we wouldn't exist. It takes the staff. It's not the ownership. It's the staff that makes the restaurant work.
Pete?
Absolutely. We're blessed to have a little over 500 employees. many of whom have been with us 25, 30, 40, 50 years. Our chef, actually, Raul, has been with us for 55 years, and he turned 71, what's today? In 4 days. So, truly, it is the team. I mean, we say we're a family-owned and operated business, but the reality is that even within our 500 employees, they're all family too. I mean, we have moms and dads and husbands and wives and kids and brothers and sisters, and so it's really, truly a family affair.
Marissita?
I would agree with that as well. Like he said, he has moms and dads and brothers and sisters. I would say Little Red Barn, there's a lot of Little Red Barn families. And I think that really keeps us at your core of who you are, because they're people that have been born into it as well. And I think that helps you keep consistent to the core of who you are.
Thank you, Louis.
So 72 was the first restaurant. My father gets killed in a traffic accident in 75. My mother gets cheated in 2 ventures. Then she figures out she can only provide for us through the restaurant business. So she takes $3,000 and opens up Los Barrios, works 7 days a week till 11:30 to midnight, 7 days a week, 363 days a year. Then we close Christmas and Thanksgiving until the day she died. And so she kind of modeled, she would just pour herself into the business. And I would send over managers when we had multiple locations, and I would send them over to watch my mother work. And then when they would come back, I would have them report. And they would say, it's not that Mrs. Barrios is still there every night till we close. At 10 p.m., she's still bussing tables. So she did it with joy. She was always grateful. And we call it the Wea way because that's her nickname, Wea, that her oldest granddaughter named her. So it's the Wea way. It's, the ones that were fortunate enough to be taught by my mother. And then we're imitators of my mother. And the other folks are supposed to imitate us. And we're supposed to work at that same pace. I mean, it's really easy. The restaurant business is a lifestyle. You either love it or you hate it. The window's all the way up or all the way down. Either you sweat or you freeze. So make up your mind.
Thank you all. Here's another question I'm going to throw out to all of you, and we'll go down the line one more time. How difficult is it to maintain staffing in this climate, and what challenges do you see in the future, Bill?
Well, since COVID, the quality of staff has declined, and it is picking up a little bit. But the work ethic just isn't what it used to be. And we have people who just walk out in the middle of a shift. We'll have them go through orientation and then not show up. We believe that if you take care of the staff will take care of the customer. And we have a very complete fringe benefit program, and we think that has helped us keep people. For one guy retired after 60 years. We had 2 ladies at 50 years. So anyway, we think we've got to treat the staff like we treat ourselves.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a lot. We agree. I think we're
Right.
This is a real fraternity, and for example, in our family, you can say, well, there's X amount of us, but there's 10 times, 20 times more of those team members that are really out there doing the work. And many, many years ago, this is what we refer to as our company Bible. And it's a little fold out. We did it kind of for ourselves, for our team members, and now we give it away. I really wish I remembered to have brought one for everybody here. But, it's kind of our mission statement, our values, our principles, our beliefs and our expectations. And in terms of trying to get to the consistency, I think this younger generation of people that are coming along, I mean, we're blessed to have all these folks that have been with us for decades. Like I said, many of them are family, but I think people want to belong to something that it's important, that means something, that's not just about, in this case, serving food. It's about serving a greater purpose. And I think that's what we try to do. And this is sort of our foundation for everything we do.
Marissita?
So I will say, I grew up working in the restaurant too, and I have seen it evolve over my 31 years. But I will say, like Bill said, COVID changed a lot. But I think part of it is also evolving. And what's great is we have really great staff that has been with us for 20, 30 plus years. And we're very grateful, because honestly, without them, I don't know where we would be, because they show up and they pull through, and having them help train new people, young blood that we can get in, and seeing the mix of the two work together, that's what helps. But sometimes we do have to find a way to fill the void. And I think this is maybe more of my generation thing is there are apps out there that allow us to help have temps for the hospitality industry. So that is apps like Quick. So those are things that do help us in a pinch when we need to fill something. But truly what it is, it's our core staff that has been there for 20, 30 years that come through. But, we have to find ways to sometimes fill the voids.
And Louis, about your staffing challenges.
Well, what I'd like to teach people, and Tim Duncan's been a long time Los Barrios La Hacienda Scenic Loop customer. And I told him one day, I said, Tim, I tell your story to teach my busboys all the time. He said, well, tell me my story. I said, okay. I said, Tim Duncan was a swimmer in St. Croix, and then they had a hurricane, and it destroyed the pool, so he became a basketball player. And then every day he tried to become a more and more excellent basketball player. I said, do you guys want to be successful? They all say yes. I say, you don't pursue success, you pursue excellence. And you don't learn to be excellent when you're a Tim Duncan MBA. You start being the most excellent busboy, then you become the most excellent server, then you become the most excellent bartender, manager, etc., banker, salesperson, whatever. You pursue excellence, and then success pursues you. I said, I don't know what that success is going to look like. With Tim, he won gold medals, MVPs, rings, championship rings. He's going to the Hall of Fame. And that's what he did. He started pursuing excellence as a child, and then success pursued him. And so that's what I teach these youth. I teach these little boys all the time, these young boys. And the parents, the fathers will call me up and say, Louis, I don't know what you told my son, but he's a different person. And all I do is I model a behavior, I pour love into them like my mother did, and then I teach them that little success formula.
Jerry, parents love us because we pre-employment drug screen.
The fact that you all are in charge of what we're calling legacy restaurants, in other words, they've been around for a long, long time. And I know Bill and I had a conversation on the phone the other day, and we were talking about some of the challenges in just maintaining a building of as old as Casa Rio and Shilo's. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of maintaining a structure like that?
Well, part of Casa Rio, we've been told, dates back to a Spanish-era hacienda from the late 1700s.
Wow.
And the back part of Shilo's is an old two-story rock house with a fireplace in the basement. Well, both of those structures were rock walls. Well, the health department doesn't like rocks because it holds germs. But the historic department likes the old rock walls. So we've had to deal with some of that. And then way back, ADA was not something that we had to adhere to. So both of our restaurants did not have good ADA access, and we have had to go to great pains to try to accomplish that, and have, but it's not real convenient. The old restaurants on the Riverwalk built up above what they thought would be floodwaters, and so they're up. And the newer restaurants, because of the flood control measures, are all down on the sidewalk level. But anyway, we've had to just work around that and try to comply with the ordinances that are in place.
Pete, most of your restaurants are in Market Square, or 3, I believe, right?
Yeah, yes.
And we were talking about some of the challenges that you've had, and also you brought up something I didn't know about, and that's the basement at Market Square. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what it was and what it's used for now?
Sure. I'm kind of giggling because there's a funny story. It's probably not appropriate for today that Bayless Miller told us one time, from our dear friend from Bill Miller's, about old restaurants that were former restaurants. But yes, so our buildings at Market Square date back to the mid to late 1800s. And, when my grandfather first started, he came to this country in 1928 from Guadalajara, lived through the Depression, started a 3-table food stall in Market Square in 1941, rented for 10 years, and then opened what is now Mi Tierra in 1951. renting month to month for another 10 years. And then he bought the whole block in 1961 for a little under $250,000. And back in those days, people don't know this, this was the produce terminal for San Antonio. So all the produce came in from all over, the country, and outside of the country came to Market Square. And so the basements were really only maybe 6 feet deep. They weren't really functional, but it was mainly for storage and mainly to hang bananas, for example, the bushels down in the basement. So when he bought it, he decided to, he bought an old Bobcat, bought an old dump truck that belonged to the city of San Antonio, and single-handedly engineered the whole thing and dug it all out. So now it's become a completely functional part of our restaurant. So Mi Tierra, all together, between the basement, this main level, and we do have some second floor spaces throughout the building, is a little over 35,000 square feet, which is which allows us to get to 650 to 700 seats in the restaurant. Pre-COVID, we were probably the 20th largest restaurant in America in terms of sales volume, and number one in terms of actual customer counts every year. But the basement has become such a big part of that. We have a butcher shop down there. Our bakery was down there. We have a produce commissary down there. All of our dry storage, refrigeration that pumps beer up into the restaurant, to the bars. So it's become
It's literally a city.
Yes.
It's a city. When you go down there, you're like, oh my God, it's a city.
Well, we in the Cortez family, we know that if we were ever nuked, we're all heading to Mi Tierra, to the basement. Get there as soon as you can, because we're batting down the hatches. Until the food runs out, of course.
And do you have other challenges due to the age of the buildings as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that one. The La Margarita block, the La Margarita in and of itself, any of you that have noticed, it looks sort of like it belongs in New Orleans. It's because in the parking lot of Mi Tierra, when my grandfather bought the block, it was the house that belonged to the French ambassador to the state of Texas. And so he bought the land, and it came with that house. And so he very carefully took it apart. Once the produce terminal moved out to the west side, they closed the streets, they made it into plazas, and La Margarita, he pulled all that old material, the balconies, the railings, and everything, and created that there. But it's La Margarita is actually made up of 5 different buildings, so different floor elevations. It's pretty tough. Pico de Gallo was actually started off as a B.F. Goodrich tire shop. Then became a Hungry Farmer, and then eventually became Pico de Gallo. So when we bought our newer side location, we were feeling pretty good about ourselves because it was a modern building. It was the first time we've ever had something like that.
Marissita, I'm not real familiar with your building. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So it is a 22,000 square foot monster that we joke to not wake up. And it is, it's been 2 buildings that have been combined. And I will tell you, you will get your workout running around with repair and maintenance there. And it's crazy. Mi Tierra's been different, buildings before, different homes. And so Little Red Barn, actually, our office part, it was a garage, like a repair garage for buses. So if you go in there, you'll see the roofs are super high. And that's actually like our back storage. And it's just crazy to see how that's all, part of our building. It's not used for restaurant, but it's, there's a lot of back storage back there. But we always consistent repair and maintenance, and that's something my dad and brother really spearhead, not me too much. But it will, if you're looking for something to do, there's always a job. That's for sure. There's nothing to be bored with because there's always going to be something to repair.
Louis, when you and I were talking the other day, you mentioned that the original Los Barrios was a Dairy Queen. Is that true?
That's right. It was built probably 1960. I haven't been able to find anybody tell me, but we have pictures from the Edison High School yearbooks where you had the 1962. They'd have the Edison Bears would have a pep rally there, and the old cars would say, beat Lee. So Lee's around the corner, and Edison's down the street. So every year, the Edison class of '62, they have the reunion there. And it's an older building, and so it has all the joys of an older building. It was nice building Hacienda and Violas because we don't have those issues. But Los Barrios, it's challenge after challenge. When you have an older building, it's you never know what issues you don't have until they come up.
I'd like to ask each of the panel members about changes over the years. So, what would you say has changed the most since your restaurants opened? Bill, in your case, you purchased Shilo's in 1980. Is that correct? And then your family had Casa Rio. But how have those businesses changed over the years?
Well, we've had to change our menu some to try to appeal to current diet request. I mean, in Shilo's, the Germans never ate salads, but we now have salads in Shilo's. Just recently, some changes we've had to make. We've cut our menus back at both restaurants because we just don't feel we can have the experienced kitchen help that we need to continue with some of the items that aren't that popular and are more difficult to prepare and serve. So both restaurants, we've cut our menus back quite a bit. And I think other restaurants in the city have done the same thing.
I know you also mentioned to me the other day that the type of customers have changed over the years at both of those restaurants, correct?
Most definitely. When I grew up, downtown was it. The hospitals were downtown. The banks were downtown. All the retail was downtown. Frost, Josky's, Frank Brothers. And so the businesses were downtown, and our primary clientele way back was business people. But today, we're very dependent on tourism and convention business.
Pete, how have things changed over the years from your earliest memories?
Well, that would be 60 years, so that's a lot a lot of memories. Yeah, I would say that as we've scaled up and expanded, for example, when La Margarita opened in 1981, it was the first restaurant probably in the United States that started serving sizzling fajitas. So it was kind of an innovative thing. It was next door to Mi Tierra, so it needed to be something a little different, something unique. But I would think that, over the years, I agree with Bill. I think, as the cities continue to grow, I mean, we're multi-generational family businesses, but San Antonio has also now have several generations of people here. And as they've grown, as the city has grown and further away, we've somewhat been backfilled with a lot of we're blessed with the tourism that we have in San Antonio, both on the convention side and also just the family style tourism that we have. I would say too, thinking back to, like, for example, base realignment for us, Pico de Gallo La Margarita, for example, every single day of the week, we had tons of people from Kelly Air Force Base every single day. So that was a really tough blow in the 90s when base realignment started. And I don't think that's something most people would think about. I think now post-COVID, especially being in an urban environment, San Antonio's office market is maybe at this point 60% leased. You have most of the buildings in downtown are 40% empty. And the other part of it is 60% that is leased. Not everybody's coming to work every day. So maybe they're coming 2 days a week, 3 days a week. So that part of the dynamic has changed quite a bit.
And Marissita, what changes have you seen?
We have a bar now.
Yes. All right.
Well, so my grandfather actually, he grew up, his father had, my great-grandfather, he was in the bar business and in the grocery business. And so my grandpa grew up in a bar, and he didn't want that environment at Little Red Barn. So we were beer and wine for years. And, for one of the very first things we changed after he passed is we put in a bar and we got a liquor license. So that is probably one of the biggest change. But I would say really a lot of things is our efficiencies. We've really improved that a lot operationally. And of course you have to adapt and stay relevant. Of course, the competition, of course, there's a lot more out there. Having Brook City base so close to us, there's a lot more offerings to our customers. And so really staying relevant and top of mind for them is a big part of it. But I would say, going back to the efficiencies operationally, it's like, okay, what are we serving? What can we do better? How can we be better? Maybe there's better product. And so I actually worked for Hormel for 3 years, and I learned a lot while being there. And those were insights and things I was able to bring back to the business and say, okay, maybe we can look at something else. Or I've seen these new things out there being on the manufacturer side. Maybe these are better things we can implement on our end. And really, we started new programs for things that I learned from my background at Hormel. And I think a lot of those actually helped us operationally. So I would say was a blessing for us, those changes.
Louis, what have you seen change the most during your time with the restaurants?
Well, you have to become a better and better operator. I think everybody here has become better operators. If you don't, then you cease to exist. But every restaurant has its own personality. Like at Viola's Ventanas, we have more Mexicanada as our customer base, and they eat later. So when the other restaurants are thriving, and then all of a sudden you're looking at your numbers, or I'm at Viola's and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a slow night tonight. And then all of a sudden everybody shows up. And then you have to adapt. Like at La Hacienda, we have a lot of singers that do the American standards. And at Viola's, I keep on having people ask me for more Mexican music. So now we have a musician that does Latin ballads out there twice a week. So each restaurant has its own personality, its own clientele that's got its own mix, and so you have to become a better operator and trying to figure out what is the right business plan for that particular model.
Thank you. When I spoke with all of our panelists in advance, and I did bring up one particular subject, and when I brought up the word construction, 3 grown men almost started crying. But Marissita said the opposite. You said that construction has been good for you in a way.
Well, I will go back to say, it's recent news to me is the kind of construction they are facing we're probably going to start facing it really soon with a highway project that's going on. So hopefully they can hold our hand and guide us through this. But I will say the city of San Antonio grew away from us for probably about 10, 12 years. And the whole development of Southtown and the Riverwalk and, revitalizing this has actually worked for our benefit because the city's growing back towards us. And that's been a beautiful thing. People are wanting to see more of what's historical rather than just the new cookie cutter. And so that's been really great for us. But, I'm not quite sure when our project's going to start, but,
Your time is coming. Is that what you're saying?
I think our time, but you know what? They made it through it and we'll make it through it just as they did.
Pete, the area around Market Square is obviously, it's a lot of construction. How have you dealt with it? What have you done to try to mitigate the damage that the construction has done to your business?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, my dad, who passed away in November of last year, had been working really, really hard for the past 30 or 40 years to develop the west end of downtown. And, he would refer to it as Zona Cultural. And we had been working for years with elected officials in the city and trying to motivate people to move west. And, he'd created this whole series of renderings starting at the Riverwalk and how to really connect the Riverwalk with Market Square. And we got involved with bond projects in 2012 and were able to get about $9 million of bond funds to start to renovate Commerce Street from St. Mary's all the way to Frio. Of course, $9 million doesn't get you very far. And so we came back. I co-chaired a downtown stakeholder committee in 2017. We got the bond up from $596 million to $850 million. 20% of that for the first time in history came to downtown. So $43 million went to Broadway, another $25 million or so to Hemisphere, and $80 million to Zona Cultural to help this beautiful creek right outside here and all the streets that you see that are now under construction. Now, what we could not have imagined that they were all going to happen at the exact same time. And, what we also didn't know when we passed that bond in May of 2017 was that a few months later, Taylor Amy was going to become the new president of UTSA. And whereas UTSA really wasn't doing much with the downtown campus, Taylor comes in and says, hey, our future as a university is downtown, and it's right here at this West End. So, we've got 2 buildings, one building open, San Pedro 1, San Pedro 2 is under construction. That really motivated Graham Weston and Western Urban to do a lot more. So they built a new Frost Tower. They bought the Continental Hotel, which is now being renovated just across the street from us. So it's painful. There's no doubt it has cost us well into seven figures over the last 5 years. But we see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. It's supposed to have been finished about 2 years ago. And I got an update this morning, and they had street by street. Okay, this one will be June, and this one will be July, and this one will be... But they've been telling us that for 2 years, so I don't know how much we can rely on that. But we're starting to see the remnants of it. So if you've driven around here, you see the wider sidewalks, the more landscaping, more trees, more lighting, and it's going to be a beautiful part of downtown.
Bill, I don't know if construction is currently affecting you. Is it now, or has it in the past?
Well, locals don't usually like to come downtown because they don't like to pay for parking and they don't like to stand in a line. And so we've been sending customers to the Little Red Barn because they don't like being down.
Lots of parking.
You.
But no, it really hasn't affected us too much because we're kind of right at a real hub of whatever's going on downtown. And both of our restaurants are basically walkable for a lot of our clientele.
Louis, have you had issues with construction around your businesses?
Yes, sir. We had 7 years of road construction in front of Los Barrios from Jackson County to Hildebrand. It was so many phases. And when they got to us, they had it going it was south to north. So anybody coming from 410 could not come our way. They would get redirected to San Pedro. And I had older customers tell me, Louis, I'm not coming back until the road construction is done. And so some lunches, we would have literally 4 or 5 tables to split between 4 or 5 servers. And I would gather them around. I'd say, listen, fellas, there's a saying in Spanish, en cuál cabeza cabe eso, and whose head does it fit? I said, it doesn't fit in my head that my mother started this restaurant with $3,000, worked so hard, and we've been through, embezzlements and you name it, armed robberies, and we've been through burglaries, and we've been through everything you can imagine. And you're going to tell me that a road construction project, a big investment from the city, is going to take down Los Barrios? That may happen, but that doesn't fit in my head. It doesn't fit in my head. And then after they finished that project, we had 3 years of road construction in front of Hacienda. Yeah, fortunately at that, when the Hacienda, 90% of our clientele are women, and when a woman makes up their mind she's going to go to your restaurant, there is nothing or nobody going to stop her from it. When she gets there, it better be right. But they'll go through road construction. They'll pass 50 restaurants. They'll do whatever once they make up their mind. So the Hacienda's road construction was a lot easier than the Barrios road construction.
Thank you. I want to remind you that we have a microphone right down here. And if you have a question, you could just holler it out, but it wouldn't come out on the tape, which we were recording tonight. So please, if you have a question at any time, make your way down to the microphone and we'll stop down and take your question. All right?
I do have.
Oh, come on down.
So I'm all about historic preservation, and all of you have historical buildings in your properties. If you were, and I know you have experienced it, moved your restaurant to a new building on a strip center, would you have the same success?
I'm sorry, I can hardly see with the light here. Are you asking me?
Or any of you?
Okay.
You're all you're the only one who has actually experienced moving your restaurant or opening a restaurant in a new building and in a newer area, more modern. But I feel like all of you have the historical aspects of all the historical buildings that you're in because of the generations you've been in there, and I think that's character of your restaurant as well as the concept. So now you moved your concept up to the north side to a more modern place. But would you do that? Like, would you all the others, would you do that?
Yeah, I will tell you, it was a challenge. We didn't talk. So this was one of my projects that I really pushed, the family kind of, as a third generation family member, I was always pushing my dad and my uncles to let's do more. And, we actually were the founding food service providers at Toyota. At the main plant, we designed it, we opened it, we did that for several years. We kind of parlayed that into a 5-year contract at USAA. So I was always kind of pushing to try to, grow. And this particular location, we were able to purchased it in 2018 and started construction in 2019 and opened literally, I think it was the week before Thanksgiving in November. And then COVID happened like 90 days later. So I always think back and say, man, what a genius you are. Open up a multi-million-dollar restaurant and then it closes in, 90 days. But the interesting thing was it for us is because, if you read our mission statement, preserving culture is such an important part to us. And being rooted in the mercado, it made it that much more challenging because it's about our people and it's about where we come from. And my dad was always the one that was like the hardest to convince because we can, because I proved with Toyota and with USAA that we can, the food can travel. I mean, we've done a lot of work. We have a commissary. We were able to, we knew the food would work, but it was how do we transport the soul of that restaurant somewhere else? And interestingly, when we started the construction, they had done some things to the inside of the main dining room, and we started kind of knocking walls down and opening things up. And as we started kind of playing with the old furniture that they had left in the building, and I kid you not, that the main dining room at Mi Familia is an identical replica to Mi Tierra downtown, even to the point where, booth number 301, and it kind of winds its way all the way to table 327. It's identical at Mi Familia at the Rim, but we have, because it's a little bigger, tiny bit bigger, we have an extra table there, 328. And so, literally, because of the buildings are so old and all the years of construction that we had at downtown at Mi Tierra, we always save everything. I mean, even old beams that we had torn, down and whatever. And when we were under construction at the new restaurant, I pulled all of that, some of that material out, and even just embedded it into the walls of the new restaurant. For me, it was like taking a part of the root. My daughter's really into planting. I think they call it propagating. Is that what they call that? So we took some of that old material and actually propagated it into the new restaurant because it was that important to us.
Thank you for your question, Louis. You started with Los Barrios and expanded that concept to multiple locations. How have you handled those kind of challenges?
Well, my mother loved that Mexican hacienda look. So we expanded Los Barrios. I mean, I bought 4 houses and turned them into parking lots. And then we expanded like 3 or 4 times. And we put those hacienda windows. So when we built La Hacienda, we put those windows. And then we built Violas Ventanas, Violas windows. And we put all those windows because that was my mother's dream of having a hacienda. So the 3 restaurants we have those big windows. And that was, I always say that Violas Ventanas, so she's sitting in a picture that Kathy Sosa, my cousin is Lyons Sosa, his wife Kathy did this wonderful picture of Mom after she died there at Los Barrios, and the Gigley is at Violas Ventanas, but she's sitting there and she's looking out her windows at her diners. But if you could look into the window of my mother's soul, you would find someone that put our love on display by cooking for you. So whenever she would hear that one of her customers were sick, she would make her famous chicken soup and either deliver it after work or call their daughter and say, le hice tu mamá caldo de pollo, come pick it up or whatever, or her bundt cake or whatever. She would welcome people, to the neighborhood at her home or whatever with a cake or something. So my mother put her love on display by cooking for people. So we took those windows that my mother loved so much and we put them in the other restaurants.
The fact that you're all generational owners is fascinating, and I'd love to hear maybe your very first memories of the restaurant business as when you were young. Bill, can you give us a memory?
Well, when I was 7 years old, my grandfather opened Casa. And for a straight week, we went down every night and tested new recipes. I got so tired of Mexican food after that week. And anyway, that was my first memory. The other memory I have of Casa when it was under construction, my grandfather had to cut the windows out of some retaining walls to keep the flood water from going into the structure. And we stood in that open window before it was finished and watched the river parade in a torrent of rain. Anyway, those are 2 memories I have. And then one other one, my grandfather used to dress me up as a clown for the river parade. and make me get on a paddle boat and paddle around before the parade. Anyway.
Louis, you got a memory?
I hope he paid you for that.
Well, back to 1972 when I was 12 and I washed dishes. I tore up the boxes because we didn't have a dumpster, so we have to tear up all the boxes, put them in a bag, put them in my mom's trunk, and then the garbage man from home would take them. And then we didn't have an ice machine, so I had to run across the street to get the ice at Texas Ice and navigate West Avenue and not get run over with the ice. Meanwhile, Diana would get to play server. She was the cute one, right? So she was 9 years old, and she would take a cup of
still
coffee.
the cute one, really.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Pete. I really appreciate that. So I would be there with washing dishes, boiling water. We didn't have the fancy machines, and Diana would come back, and she'd have a little dollar bill. And I said, "What'd you get that for?" She goes, "I took a cup of coffee." I said, "You took a cup of coffee and got $1?" Yes. So, I mean, I really hated my job. So then one day she'd show up with her little hand full of dimes. I said, "What'd you get those for?" She said, "Well, I was coloring in my color book, and a customer said, if you tear that page out, put your name and give it to me, I'll give you all these dimes." And so you fast forward 40 years, I've sold my house twice to get the seed money to build 2 restaurants and have to build them and then build the team and then go through all that 7 days a week of trying to establish it. Meanwhile, Diana comes out on Good Morning America with Emerald, Good Morning America Sam Champion, the Today Show New York twice, the Food Network on 10 or 12 shows that aired hundreds of times, the Travel Channel, Golf Channel, NPR, PBS. It's better, and the list goes on. So the moral of the story, it's better to be the cute one than the big brother. So that's one story. The next one is we opened up Los Barrios downtown with $3,000. The 6-month lease expired. My mom paid it for 2 months, and then she bought the Dairy Queen. So we cleaned it up, painted everything. A few weeks later, we opened it up, and I get to work the drive-through. Beep, beep. "You're not Dairy Queen anymore?" "No, sir." "What are you?" "Los Barrios." "Do you have food to go?" "Yes." "What do you have?" "Well, we have cortadillo, we have milanesa." "What's a cortadillo? What's a milanesa? What's this?" "Take the order, get it all ready." Beep, beep. "You're not Dairy Queen anymore?" "No, sir, we're Los Barrios." "Do you do food to go?" "Yes, we do." "What do you have?" "Well, we have cortadillo, we have milanesa." I hated that drive-through. I hated it to this day. Even during COVID, when drive-thrus got big, I'm like, no, thank you. Been there, done that.
Pete, can you dredge up a childhood memory of the restaurant business?
Well, unlike Louis, I was the oldest and the cutest. So
Okay.
Nice.
Pete.
no.
I'm gonna
Louis
put
and I
you-
are we're like brothers. Well, for me, the couple of things that I was thinking about was one, I went to school at St. Mary's Catholic School downtown, right next to the old Paternics, right across the street. So my dad would take me to school in the mornings, and we'd go to mi Tierra, and I'd get breakfast tacos, and then he would make me tacos for lunch, and then he would always make a few extra tacos for the ladies in the cafeteria. So as soon as I got to school, the first thing I did was I went straight to the basement where the cafeteria was, and I asked the ladies to hold my tacos for lunch. And then, and I would always give them their breakfast tacos. So they loved me because, they got breakfast tacos every morning. And I never, in all the years that I went to school, I never ate one school lunch ever. Because I had either, at some point I didn't get to go to mi Tierra every morning, but I just wouldn't eat at school because I was so spoiled about, having food from the restaurant. The other cool one for me was that over the years, as my grandfather was digging out that basement, there's a picture of us when he was, it's actually where the mariachi bar is on the parking lot side, where he'd built a ramp down into the basement. And I thought it was just the coolest thing ever to sit in his lap and ride down that big, long ramp to get down into the basement on the little Bobcat. So those are some cool memories.
Marissita, you're the baby of the group. Give us one of your childhood memories of the restaurant business.
There's so many, and a lot of them really, really include my grandfather. But there's this one that's kind of funny, and I don't remember it, but they love to tell me. And apparently, so I was always too little to wait on. I always wanted to be in the middle of everything. I wanted to already be a waitress as a very little girl, and get in on the action. And so what they would let me do is, make the bread basket. So I'd be there with the basket and the wax paper and just doing it over and over. And apparently a customer goes, "So future waitress? And I go, no, future owner. So I don't remember it, but apparently they love to tell me that that's exactly how it went. And I, growing up, I was very proud, and I idolized my grandparents and my grandfather. And, two of my really core, strongest memories are, I'll never forget one time I came in after I went to the rodeo with my friends. So I got to go have fun while everyone else worked. Now I work. But at that point in time, I came in, and my grandpa was already older, and I already saw him as much older. And I was probably, I don't know, maybe like 10 at this time. And I came in, and I don't know if at this point in time, or I didn't have a memory, I always saw him in the back, number crunching, all that kind of stuff. But he was there, right there, next to all his fry cooks, cooking right there with them on one of the busiest days I'd ever seen. And then, my grandpa, he got very sick with cancer, and he would still go to work every day, that he could. And I vividly remember it was, I think, a Mother's Day, Father's Day. I don't know if it was in the middle of rodeo. And, this is where you really, learn this is what it takes. And, this is how you lead by example also, is he was right there with his dishwashers when he was very sick too, back there helping them out because, as a good leader, that's what you do. And those are probably two of my really, really strong, solid memories of all right, this is it. This is what it takes.
So Marissita's mother, Marisa, is one of my sister Diana's best friends growing up. And they opened Little Red Barn in 1963 when Marisa was born. And she was in a bassinet there in the restaurant. And they had a cigar box as the cash register. So, her mama,
I've got one more funny one. My grandfather would take me downtown early on Saturday morning to shoot pigeons. He hated the pigeons because they messed on everything around outside seating at the restaurant. So I'd be down there early in the morning shooting pigeons under the bridge.
Did y'all think about a net? Maybe you could net them? I don't know. That's a great story. We've talked a lot about the business of restaurants, and I do want to talk a little bit about the food, but the way I'd like to do that is go down the line and ask each of you, which is if you can, the one dish that you're the most proud of that you serve at your restaurant. Bill?
Well, we're most proud of what people order the most. And at Shilo's, the Reuben sandwich was always our most popular item. But as the clientele changed to more tourist and convention, we now serve breakfast all day. And our breakfast, our Papa Fritz breakfast, has now become our number one item. The tourists, they get up late and they don't eat breakfast at a normal time. And so anyway, that's been one change. The favorite item probably that we get most recognized at Casa Rio is our chili con carne. And we have tried to duplicate what the chili queens used to make on the plazas. And that we get a lot of positive comments about that.
You and I also talked, and you told a brief story the other day about the root beer at Shilo's. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Shilo's originally, when they came to San Antonio from Beeville, was a bar. And Mrs. Schilo started serving food in 1917, and Prohibition came in 1920. The bar business was still a big part of their operation. So no more beer, no more alcohol. So Mr. Schilo developed a kind of a robust root beer. So the Germans could still sit there with their mug of root beer instead of beer. And we're still pretty much on that same recipe that he developed back in 1920 probably.
Pete, what's the dish that you're most proud of that you serve?
Yeah, that's such a difficult question. I thought you were going to ask, what do you like to eat? What's your favorite dish? And
we could ask
and I don't know
too.
if the rest of the folks would agree. I've never ordered just a regular plate off of the menu, because personally I always go serve my own food. I just like to, because I have to almost see it to eat it. because you're there every day, right? So it gets really hard. I think you said that earlier. It's like you got sick of Mexican food. And so sometimes it's like you just got to walk through the kitchen and let something speak to you. And then you say, okay, I think this is what I want today. I would say that the thing that I guess I would most proud of is not so much one dish, but the fact that we've been able to sort of preserve the process and the recipes, the techniques. My grandfather, when he first came here, he had an aunt who owned a little grocery store called Villa del Carmen, which was right where the downtown UTSA campus is right now. She's the one that lent him the $150 to buy what was Jamaica number 5, the 3-table food stall. But he had learned working in that grocery store, he became an expert butcher. And so there was a lot of technique that he learned and learned how to buy also. And so the fact that we have a meat cutting room inside of Mi Tierra in the basement, where we process our own meat fresh every single day. And we obviously had to scale the recipes, from smaller pots as we've grown. And now that we, commissary. But I think the thing I'd be most proud of is just the fact that we've been able to, maintain that discipline of doing it a certain way for 84 years.
And Marissita, I'm going to predict you're going to say steak, right?
I don't know how I could choose something else, but I will say I'm incredibly proud of what we serve just in general. Of course, we're a steakhouse, but I mean, we hand cut our beef every day, and it's all Angus beef, and it is the best that we can get our hands on. And I am very proud of our commitment to really serve truly the best. And I don't mean that in a way of like, I don't mean that in a bragging way, but we've truly been committed to really providing our customers with the best Angus beef, upper 2/3, and hand cutting it. And, we've done it for over 60 years, and the scratch kitchens, our dressings, it's something I'm truly proud of. And so, but if you're going to ask me my favorite piece of meat, I'm going to go with a ribeye. I do love that. That has my heart. But I think really it's truly like, Pete said, their consistency and their commitment, and us, it's our commitment to what we serve too.
Louis, can you pick one?
Well, see, over the years, and we can all attest to this, we've had a lot of famous customers in all our restaurants. Well, last April, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top came to Los Barrios, and they wanted to take him to Bohannon's, but last year when they took him there, he just got soup. And he says, well, I want to eat Mexican food. They go, okay, we'll go to Los Barrios. So they came to Los Barrios, and he loved our mole. And so the Express News calls me the next day to get a story, and it came out. And so I texted it over to Billy, and here is what in the story, I said that he was going to become a regular customer. And he said, "Sí, señor, we are now confirmed return customers. Compliments to you and the Barrios crew. The cuisine is simply stellar. Más mole, más mole. Ten cuidado, amigo. Hasta luego, BFG, Billy F. Gibbons." Yeah.
We're not done yet, but we're getting near the end. If there are any more questions, now would be a great time if you have a question to come up to the microphone and ask our panelists. Anyone have any questions out there?
Who's taking over your restaurants now? Who's the next generation?
Well, we have 2 of my children are working at the restaurant. My daughter, my son, and then my sister Diana's son, Jordan, Lindsay, and Ian. So we have a 3rd generation working within the business. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you can't force someone to do. Like I said, either you love it or you hate it. Either the window's all the way up or all the way down. It's the way it is. So if they want to do it, they can do it. If not, if the Lord wants us to continue, he'll have to sustain it somehow.
Anyone else want to field that one?
I'll say I'm 3rd generation, and I actually work with Anne-Marie, but I've always loved being in the restaurant business. And some people say, I don't know how, but, born and raised in it, and I love it. And my brother and I, it's a family business, and that's what we're always going to be.
Well, my wife and I are very proud that our daughter has taken the interest she has, and she really has a good head on her shoulders. She really cares about people, and she knows food pretty well. So we're very fortunate to have her stepping in.
And for us, I would say that, I'm 60, so I hope to be around for quite a long time. But, between all of my nephews, my nieces, I've got a 24-year-old and a 21-year-old. He's still in school. I think for me and for all my nephews, my nieces, my own children, I want to do for them what my grandfather did for me, what my dad did for me, which was to tell me, there's no expectation for you to do this. We want you to be happy. We want you. But my grandfather would always sit me down and say, look, I don't ever want you to feel like you're obligated to work in the family business. Whatever you do, I just want you to be the best, whatever it is. Even if it's a garbage man, be the best garbage man. And so for me, I don't press my kids about, for example, like being in the business. I think I see that little flame in there, and not so little even. I mean, I think they love the business. So God willing, it'll continue on. I think also our team members and, over the years, building an infrastructure, somewhat a little bit outside of the family. So there's other positions within the company that we've had to build to keep it hopefully going for many years.
Thanks. Do we have a question?
Yes. Hello. My name is Drew Steens. I'm a 5th generation farmer rancher from Luling, Seguin area. And it's truly been a pleasure to hear you all speak about the traditions of your family and the lineage. We currently do the Angus and Wagyu crosses out there, and we hit choice. I'm pushing to get to prime, so I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Well, one of the things I wanted to discuss, we made a transition a couple of years ago due to the heat and the drought. So I now do hydroponics here in San Antonio as well, just to kind of, deal with the climate change of things. And with that, we all have to adjust and adapt. And I think we touched on it a little bit. But how do you as restaurant owners, think about, healthy eating, the healthy sourcing of food and product? And you mentioned you work for Hermel, but if you could just walk me through some of the processes that you go through when you make the food selections for your restaurants. And thank you all.
Somebody want to field that one?
Well, we cut lard out a long, long time ago.
Right.
We know that's an evil spirit. We try to use as little salt as possible and use seasoning to enhance the item rather than salt. But you get people in the kitchen a lot of times, and they're used to tasting that food every day, and it doesn't taste just right to them after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years in that kitchen. And so they add some salt to try to enhance it. And we have to really watch that because we know salt is not good for people.
Anyone else?
I would say that, it can be challenging, especially for our particular cuisine, right? Beans as being one of the refried beans, for example, being one of the most predominant things on the menu. But to Bill's point, I think over time things have gotten better. All the trans fats that have been removed and so on and so forth. Buying fresh product, processing it in-house every day. It's how I think we're doing. And then adding menu items. People do want to eat healthier and sometimes even eat less than. I think especially Tex-Mex food can be sometimes people expect these ginormous plates, and we've learned that you have to offer different types of dishes for different people to make sure that you're accommodating. And then I would say the other thing too is now, all the allergies. That's been a big thing that I think we were talking about earlier. The question about what's changed. I think now you almost have to ask when you go to approach a table. Do you have any allergies? Because gluten has become a big thing too that we've had to really be watchful for.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, we're out of time this evening. I want to thank our guests, Bill Lyons, Pete Cortez, Marissita Garcia, and Louis Barrios, our sponsors, HEB, Frost, our partner on the series, the City of San Antonio World Heritage Office. We'd like to thank Schilo's for their amazing pop-up. That food was delicious. And thank you all for supporting TPR and joining us this evening. Can we get a round of applause for our panelists? Stay tuned for more in this great essay series with upcoming themes such as a conversation with chef ambassadors and James Beard nominations. And if you're a fan of our events, we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. It's right out there in the lobby. Follow us on Facebook to find out about our events and visit us at tpr.org. And by the way, we have a really awesome summer series coming up called Summer Night City. It's every Thursday night in June featuring live music, DJs, vendors. It's a great family event, so check that out too. Thank you all for being here. Good night.